Those in Tier 4 areas will not be permitted to travel abroad, apart from limited exceptions such as for work purposes. Third, we must, I'm afraid, look again at Christmas. And as Prime Minister, it's my duty to take difficult decisions, to do what is right to protect the people of this country. Given the early evidence we have on this new variant of the virus, the potential risk it poses, it is with a very heavy heart, I must tell you, we cannot continue with Christmas as planned. In England, those living in Tier 4 areas should not mix with anyone outside their own household at Christmas.
Welcome back and thanks for joining us for the program. This is Links 007 TV. Let's talk. The UK went into stricter lockdown measures after the Prime Minister implemented this, and this will take effect tomorrow morning. This as the virus is spiraling out of control and the government doesn't have a choice more than to cancel Christmas for many. So the Prime Minister in a statement today made this announcement to the revelation that Christmas would not be as normal, and these measures are just being implemented in order to curb the rapid spread of the coronavirus that is wreaking havoc on the world. So in a statement released by the Prime Minister, and I quote, "I am sorry to report that the situation has deteriorated since I last spoke to you 3 days ago. Yesterday afternoon, I was briefed on the latest data showing the virus spreading more rapidly in London, the southeast, and the east of London than would be expected, given though the restrictions that were in place in those areas. I also received an explanation for why the virus is spreading more rapidly in these areas. It appears that this spread is now being driven by the new variant of the virus, which we first learned about earlier this week. Our advisory group on new and emerging respiratory threat has spent the last few days analyzing the new variant, according to the Prime Minister. There is no evidence that the variant causes more severe illness or higher mortality rate, but it does appear that it is passed on much easier." The Prime Minister further stated that their expert will continue to work and monitor this while they try to develop new and restrictive measures just in order to protect people through this Christmas period. In this report now, we're going to go over to the Prime Minister and listen what the Prime Minister had to say as he briefed the nation on these new restrictive measures which are to take effect tomorrow. Let's go over to that now.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining the latest coronavirus press conference. Yesterday afternoon, I was briefed on the latest data that shows the virus spreading more rapidly in London, the southeast and the east of England than would be expected, given the tough restrictions that are already in place. And I also received an explanation for why the virus is spreading more rapidly in these areas. It seems that the spread is now being driven by the new variant of the virus, which we spoke about earlier this week and learned about earlier this week. Our advisory group on new and emerging respiratory virus threats, NERVTAG, has spent the last few days analysing this new variant. There's no evidence that it causes more severe illness or higher mortality, but it does appear to be passed on significantly more easily. NERVTAG's early analysis suggests the new variant could increase the R by 0.4 or more, and although there's considerable uncertainty, it may be up to 70% more transmissible than the old variant, the original version of the disease. This is early data and it's subject to review, but it's the best that we have at the moment, and we have to act on information as we have it, because this is now spreading very fast. The UK has by far the best genomic sequencing ability in the world, which means we're better able to identify new strains like this than any other country. The Chief Medical Officer last night submitted our findings so far to the World Health Organization and will continue to be totally transparent with our global partners. There's still much that we don't know. While we're fairly certain the variant is transmitted more quickly, there's no evidence to suggest it is more lethal or causes more severe illness. Equally, there's no evidence to suggest the vaccine will be any less effective against the new variant. Our experts will continue their work to improve our understanding as fast as we can. So we're learning about it as we go, but we already know enough, more than enough, to be sure that we must act now. So I met ministers on the COVID Operations Committee last night and again first thing this morning. Cabinet met at lunchtime to agree the following actions. First, we will introduce new restrictions in the most affected areas, specifically those parts of London, the South East and the East of England, which are currently in Tier 3. These areas will enter a new Tier 4, which will be broadly equivalent to the national restrictions which were in place in England in November. That means residents in those areas must stay at home, apart from limited exemptions set out in law. Non-essential retail, indoor gyms and leisure facilities and personal care services must close. People must work from home if they can, but may travel to work if this is not possible, for example, in the construction and manufacturing sectors. People should not enter or leave Tier 4 areas, and Tier 4 residents must not stay overnight away from home. Individuals can only meet one person from another household in an outdoor public space. Unlike the November national restrictions, communal worship can continue to take place in Tier 4 areas, and these measures will take effect from tomorrow morning. All tiers will continue to be regularly reviewed in line with the approach previously set out, with the next formal review taking place on the 30th of December. Second, we're issuing new advice on travel. Although the new variant is concentrated in Tier 4 areas, it is nonetheless present at lower levels around the country. So we're asking everyone in all tiers to stay local. People should carefully consider whether they need to travel abroad, and they should follow the rules in their tier. Those in Tier 4 areas will not be permitted to travel abroad, apart from limited exceptions such as for work purposes. Third, we must, I'm afraid, look again at Christmas. And as Prime Minister, it's my duty to take difficult decisions, to do what is right to protect the people of this country. Given the early evidence we have on this new variant of the virus, the potential risk it poses, it is with a very heavy heart, I must tell you, we cannot continue with Christmas as planned. In England, those living in Tier 4 areas should not mix with anyone outside their own household at Christmas, though support bubbles will remain in place for those at particular risk of loneliness or isolation. Across the rest of the country, the Christmas rules allowing up to 3 households to meet will now be limited to Christmas Day only, rather than the 5 days as previously set out. As before, there will be no relaxation on the 31st of January, so people must not break the rules at New Year. They must not break the rules at New Year. It's very, very important to emphasize that. I know how much emotion people invest in this time of year and how important it is, for instance, for grandparents to see their grandchildren, for families to be together. So I know how disappointing this will be. But we have said throughout this pandemic that we must and we will be guided by the science. When the science changes, we must change our response. And when the virus changes its method of attack, we must change our method of defense. And as your Prime Minister, I sincerely believe there is no alternative open to me. Without action, the evidence suggests that infections would soar, hospitals would become overwhelmed, and many thousands more would lose their lives. And I want to stress that we are not alone in this fight or in taking these types of decisions. Many of our European friends and neighbours are being forced to take similar action. We're working closely with the devolved administrations to protect people in every part of the UK. And of course, there is now real hope that we will soon be rid of this virus. And that prospect is growing with every day that passes and every vaccine dose that is administered. As you know, the UK was the first country in the Western world to start using a clinically approved vaccine. And so please, if the NHS contacts you, then get your vaccine and join the 350,000 people across the UK who have already had their first dose. Yes, Christmas this year will be different, very different, but we must be realistic. We're sacrificing the chance to see our loved ones this Christmas so we have a better chance of protecting their lives so that we can see them at future Christmases.
There you have it. That was the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Mr. Boris Johnson, giving the nation an update about the new restrictive measures that will take effect tomorrow. And this is just in order to protect the lives of people, as they have stated that there is a new strain of the virus which is wreaking havoc on the country, and they have seen a significant increase in the number of positive cases so far. So these measures are being implemented as a precautionary measure just in order for the Christmas period, and if needs be will extend it for a much longer period beyond that. But we have seen how this has caused the world to be on edge, and we have seen the devastation that this has caused throughout the world, and we can't really take any chance with this. In the UK alone, it has claimed more than 67,000 lives so far, and don't even think about in the United States and the other parts of the world right now. Even though there is a vaccine, it's not 100% effective that you will survive if you catch this virus. The virus itself is still in its developing stage, and as the world looks on the international countries as they try the new vaccine that was released just a week ago, many countries are just eyeing on the international countries to see the adverse effect that this will have on the rest of the world. But as it stands right now, the vaccine is still in the initial stage of use, and not many countries have opted onto the train just yet as they await to see the outcome of what's next. This is where you're gonna leave this one here for now though. Thanks for watching. This has been Links 007 TV. Let's talk, and peace out and bless.